What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. Overwatch 2 Season 11 has only just begun, and already it looks like we're starting to get little in-game teasers for what's likely to be the next upcoming new hero. With the launch of this latest season, a curious little update has taken place on a few maps in-game. Something very small, something you perhaps wouldn't even notice at first glance, but is perhaps easiest to notice for the attackers on Route 66 when leaving the first spawn room. Way up in the sky, above the desert mountains and skyline, you can see what appears to be a blue comet. It's not really doing anything fancy, it's just sort of hovering there, and upon closer inspection, it does appear to just be an object present within the map itself. In spectator mode, by going out of bounds, you can easily just fly up and even into the comet, and no, there's nothing inside it, it just looks like this. However, Route 66 isn't the only map upon which this comet has appeared. It's also visible in the skies above Hollywood, as well as Blizzard World, and additionally is present on all three maps at all variant times of day, save for those which are overcast, which would make sense. However, curiously, these three maps are the only three in which it appears to be currently present. And I don't think it's any coincidence that these three maps, geographically, all just so happen to be in relatively close proximity to each other. Hollywood and Blizzard World are both located near Los Angeles, California, with Route 66 being in a somewhat ambiguous location somewhere in either Arizona or New Mexico. Whenever branching out to maps that are a bit more distant from this location, such as Midtown in Toronto on the eastern half of North America, or even south to Dorado in Mexico, the comet is completely absent, not being in the sky of any of these maps regardless of time of day. So, whatever this object is, we can reasonably guess that at the time being, it is currently localized somewhere within this general vicinity, being somewhere in the southwestern United States. Now, upon determining which maps exactly it was present on, my next question was, which direction is this thing actually headed? After all, we can clearly see a tail on this object, thus suggesting that it is currently moving in a direction, even if we can't physically see it moving on the maps themselves. However, after calculating its exact trajectory, it seems kind of inconclusive. Perhaps the most definitive indicator of the direction it's moving is on Blizzard World, given that we actually have an in-game map of Blizzard World itself, with a compass present verifying that the gates and attacker's first spawn room are located on the southernmost portion of the park. And so when zooming out and taking into account the position of the comet, it appears to be traveling primarily westward, perhaps just ever so slightly southwestward. However, if we then view the comet on Hollywood, and specifically compare it to the direction of the Hollywood sign, which, yes, is a real-world landmark, and in the real world is facing south, thus meaning it's pretty safe to say the sign probably also faces south in Overwatch, the comet is actually moving east. Almost the exact opposite direction of what it appears to be moving in Blizzard World. But even still, if we travel to the third map it's present on, Route 66, we can determine based on the orientation of the shadows, which we know are facing north because Route 66 is in the northern hemisphere and the map quite famously is set at exactly high noon during its daytime variant. Based off the orientation of the shadows here, the comet appears to be moving south, if not ever so slightly southeast. So unfortunately, it's inconclusive as for which direction exactly this comet is traveling, which unfortunately rules out any sort of ability to predict or anticipate where it might show up next. Initially, I had theorized that if it was clearly moving in a singular direction across all three maps, say east, then perhaps later in the season we would actually see it disappear from maps like Hollywood and Route 66, only to appear over more eastern maps such as Midtown and Toronto, as I'd mentioned earlier. But given that we have no definitive direction for where it's actually headed, I guess we just have to keep tabs on all nearby maps, even including those farther to the west across the Pacific, like Busan and Samoa, as for all we know, at some point the comet may end up there, if that so happens to be the direction it's moving. But anyways, this has been a lot of talk about what ultimately may seem like a relatively insignificant thing to be present here. So why do I even care about this comment? Why do we care about this random blue light shining in the sky that has spontaneously appeared on this specific part of the world? Well, if you've been following Overwatch for nearly as long as I have, you know that this is almost certainly a teaser for a significant upcoming content drop. And historically, these sorts of teasers are almost always reserved for new heroes. And who do we just so happen to know already to be the next new hero releasing in Season 12? That's right, none other than Space Ranger. Space Ranger is of course a new hero who hails from the Mars colony, which is something we literally had no evidence to suggest existed prior to the Overwatch devs just outright saying it back at BlizzCon 2023. But thus far, we don't really know anything about this Martian colony, or how Space Ranger got from Mars to Earth, or why exactly she's here, or what the deal is in general. But considering the appearance of this celestial object, and specifically the fact that it seems to be coming from space, and we know that Space Ranger also comes from space, I would wager it's pretty safe to say that this object we can see above Route 66, Hollywood, and Blizzard World is indeed Space Ranger, likely coming to Earth in some sort of escape pod or ship of some kind or another after spending God knows how much time traveling through space. But perhaps even more exciting than simply the fact that Blizzard is seemingly teasing Space Ranger in this sort of way a whole season ahead of time is the fact that Blizzard's, well, frankly, teasing her at all. This sort of subtle in-game teasing of a new hero or other content release is something which Blizzard frankly hasn't done a lot of since the launch of Overwatch 2. They did this all the time back in Overwatch 1, but ever since the sequel released, these sorts of things have been pretty few and far between. Sure, we had Mauga's room teased on the Samoa map, and the Null Sector ships hovering above certain maps leading up to the PvE invasion season, but the fact that Blizzard now appears to be once again going out of their way to subtly build up to a new character addition honestly has me pretty excited to see why they think Space Ranger of all characters is the one who deserves such a build-up. Now, while Space Ranger is a hero that we've known about for the better part of a year at this point, again, she was shown off first back at BlizzCon 2023, where they gave the basic premise of her as a character and confirmed that she would in fact be a support hero, and people have, needless to say, been quite enticed by her design and the prospects of what she could introduce to the game as a new hero. Perhaps if there's enough hype for this new character already, Blizzard is going to try to roll with that momentum and generate even more hype by introducing little teasers and other little tidbits hinting at her leading up to her arrival. For all we know, this could be only the first of ever increasingly noticeable teasers leading to her addition, hence why I was so eager to figure out which direction the Comet was moving, because, you know, maybe later on other maps would end up featuring it if it's like moving across the Earth until we reach an ultimate like crash site or something. But again, as I said, it doesn't seem consistent the direction it's actually traveling, so who knows what that's going to mean. It could literally end up anywhere at this point for all we know. But either way, at the end of the day, I do think it is safe to say that this is more than likely a teaser for Space Ranger, because, I mean, everything checks out about it thus far. And I'm certainly going to be keeping an eye on these maps in particular, as well as other geographically nearby locations, to see if anything ends up happening. Heck, for all we know, wherever she ends up crashing down might even one day become a new map location. Alright, maybe that's a bit of a speculation stretch, but still, I'm interested in seeing what Blizzard ends up doing with this now that they've introduced it into the game. And also, I guess I should mention, yes, I did check Horizon Lunar Colony as well, and no, you can't see the object whatsoever from the moon, unfortunately. But on that note, I would love to hear your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. Do you too think this is Space Ranger making her gradual debut arrival to both Earth and Overwatch? Or maybe you think it's something else entirely, teasing a different character or some other new content release coming later down the line. Either way, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, be sure to subscribe, hit up that bell icon, follow me on X, and join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch 2 news, streams, and other content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. If you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. Otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.